Welcome to the Big Thinker Universe podcast. Today's episode is going to be just a short little conversation. It's meant to introduce what is to come. And today we are going to talk about niche selection. Now, I'm Canadian. I might occasionally say niche, but the reality is niche rhymes with rich. And there is a saying, I wish I could remember who said it first, but the riches are in the niches. And that saying is rarely finished because the final part is, and the fortune is in the follow up. So we live in a world, and I'm going to lay the blame squarely at the feet of the big five marketing companies. And I'll just call them big marketing. I don't want their legal to come after me. But the reality is, they have us believe, and I'm almost addicted to the belief that broad messaging, general service is way more important, and we need to have a broad reach. I think a lot of people, they count the number of followers they have. They focus on these vanity metrics. We've got likes, we've got follows, we've got comments, we've got engagement. I want you to understand who makes money from that. And the reality is, number one, there's a reason that these platforms are massive, and there's a reason that these platforms are owned by billionaires. They're buying and they're using our attention to earn money, and they're selling us as avatars to other people. So the reality is, a niche selection, the broad marketing, we serve everyone, only works if you're already a billion-dollar company, or you're some mass commodity, and you're the happen to be the cheapest in your field. Now, when I work with entrepreneurs, one of my little secrets is, you don't want to be the cheapest. And spoiler alert, there's no prize for second cheapest, because if you're second cheapest, people go to the cheapest until they get fed up, then they'll come to you, but they're going to be more likely to complain, they're going to challenge you, they will drive you crazy. So my approach is, if you can't be the cheapest, why not be the most unique, the best, or add the most value? And so that's where niche selection comes in. I worked at a large company, and the theme was, they would say, don't fall in love with your solution, fall in love with your customer. I go a step further and I fall in love with my customers' problems. So, what does that mean about niche selection or using a niche? The reality is, there's no examples I can think of on the planet other than the large billion-dollar companies who started as a niche and then went global. There's very few examples of small local businesses that are thriving and beating the competition by being generalists versus specialists. I once went to a restaurant, and it was the most confusing place I've ever been. They handed me a really thick menu. They had Japanese, Chinese, Indian, um, there was Korean, there was Filipino, and Russian, and then Italian. And I'm like, I don't believe that you can do all of these things well. So that's what a lot of small businesses do. They say, oh, we can do everything. No, you can't. So the niche types that I like, there's a geographic niche. So maybe you serve a city, a province, a state, whatever it is. There might be a demographic niche where you serve a certain segment of the population. There might be a psychographic where you serve them based on how they think. But the reality is, I like the idea of picking a geography and a demographic and serving that one group really, really well. And in my experience, it's actually usually more effective, cheaper, and faster to grow your geography by maintaining and working on that same niche. So, for example, maybe you want to work with chiropractors in Atlanta, Georgia. So once you've dominated that space and you've got all the chiropractors in Atlanta under your belt, then maybe you think, I want to move into Florida. And you take what worked for you in Atlanta and you move it to Florida, and you work with chiropractors maybe in Miami. So you see, it's easier. And I like the yellow pages listings. It's easier to find clients in bulk if you have a very specific label that they resonate with. And again, if you don't believe me, that niches work better than generalization. Again, try to say I work with medical practitioners in Atlanta. Very few people raise their hand and say, hey, I'm a medical practitioner. But if you say chiropractors, and more importantly, very specific left-handed chiropractors who treat spinal injuries, that's a very specific niche. And somebody will look at that and say, oh my God, that's me. How can you help me? So, my advice to you, if you're overworked, overstressed, you're burning out because you're doing way too many things, stop and ask yourself, who do I serve? And what I would say to you, you can have multiple niches. I'm not here to say you can only have one, but my advice to you is pick one, try all of your new stuff on that one, perfect what you have on that one. And then once you have it, you can say, okay, do I want to add another niche to my local geography? Or do I want to go bigger and serve that one niche exclusively? it the end result, it's entirely up to you. I'm going to show you over the next few days a few little secrets and ways you can do this. But first and foremost, you need to have that mindset. Do you want to be a specialist who makes more money, works less, has less stress, and has people coming to you saying, hey, I want to work with you? Or do you want to be the generalist where you're competing with everybody and you're chasing people and begging them to work with you? Now, one little advantage of being an expert in a niche, if you do it right, and we do this through our instant influencer blueprint, if you do the niche right, people revere you as the expert in your field, and they're coming to you saying, I hope you can help me. And that is so much more fun. It's more lucrative than being the person running around begging for referrals and leads and introductions. And if you're a specialist, and this is the part that's my secret weapon, if you're a specialist, you have fewer competitors, which again means you have more potential referral partners. So think about which is your favorite. And one of the things I do is a client portfolio analysis. I'll look at my when I work with a client, I'll look at their client base and we do a Pareto analysis and we divide their audience into 5 segments. Um, Basically, which percentage brings in the most revenue. So that's the top 20%. Then we have the next 20%, next 20%, next 20%, and the bottom 20%. And our goal is how do we clone the top 20% and how do we move each category up on that rung so that our second 20% moves up to become our top 20%. And the idea is elevating all of our clients. Now, one of the things you'll realize is if you have a good niche, you can look at your bottom 20% and you can earmark them as you replace their revenue, as you bring in better clients. Those are the ones eventually you're going to ask to go somewhere else. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to be mean about it. You can say, I don't think we're fit anymore. We're going a different direction. Here's somebody else that I think could help you. And what you do there is you've built a relationship with a new referral partner because you've sent them some clients. And again, you don't need to say there are bottom 20. You can just say these are clients we're no longer serving or able to serve. But the goal of being in a niche is you're able to do more for fewer people. So as I said, fall in love with your clients and their problems. You become the expert at solving the problems for chiropractors in Atlanta. I promise chiropractors in Atlanta will beat a path to your door and beg to work with you. If you try to be all things to all people, the worst pitch I heard was somebody said, I work with everyone who has either skin or a gut. Um, I guarantee that's a business designed to struggle. So the whole point of niche selection is identifying the clients that you love and then creating content. I call it marketing should be like a love letter to your favorites. So create content that draws your favorite people in. And the beautiful thing with niche selection is then you can pick and choose who you work with. So don't take my word for it. Think about your favorite clients at the moment or the clients that you really, really want to work with. What do they have in common? And over the next few days, I'm going to give you some actual practical exercises to actually identify your niche and start reaching out to them. Thank you. And I love to see comments below. So feel free to share or hit the subscribe button. Thank you.